Well, morning guys. Bit of an off thing, but just for today, just for right now, just a little bit of a video shot of the things that matter to me. Baseball still does, until the baseball season's over, then I get to retire. Today is Star Trek Day, 55 years old. And even more is the loss of my brother today. Today is September 8th, 2021. Now, a few videos already talked about the loss of my family and also the loss of my brother. Still my family. He died this date back in 2018. My mother died February 19th. 13. That's why the shirt's out. But I put the red out there a little bit more prominence because it is, and I think I probably would not piss off my brother too badly, or Ma, if I actually tried to do a little celebrating of Star Trek. Today is the 8th of September, 2021. The time index right now is 10:11 in the morning. I am John Weaver, Roseman, California. 55 years ago, I was born months earlier than Star Trek was broadcasted for the first time. A man named Gene Roddenberry created a fandom without even realizing it. He just wanted to create a television show that is like Wagon Train to the Stars with a touch of Horatio Hornblower in it. He made such an adventure and a mark on people left and right that he had created a group of fans that actually craved something more than what we've been experiencing in our lifetime. We've had Doctor Who, we've had The Twilight Zone. Thank you to Rod Serling for The Twilight Zone, because we actually needed to see ourselves, and it was a hell of a storytelling. Land of the Giants. Well, Irwin Allen, you get 11 for that one. Not to mention the Lost in Space, also Irwin Allen. But it was Star Trek that actually touched a lot of fans because they saw a lot of aliens communicating with each other, and in an interstellar or actually intergalactic group to explore and defend the galaxy. The group they called the United Federation of Planets. And it mattered a hell of a lot of people because when they saw an alien among the humans, still trying to feel as if the alien was part of the crew, and still watched what it was. Because the United Federation of Planets meant that aliens from different worlds would be joining a group called Starfleet to explore the galaxy and promote peace. And it was through that we were learning more and more about ourselves. Roddenberry was a hell of a storyteller. The turbulent times of the 1960s, we saw a lot of ugliness of ourselves going on during that time, Vietnam War. Hardest times to deal with. We couldn't understand why things were going on, and Roddenberry couldn't understand it either. World War II vet, not to mention a Los Angeles police officer. So he'd seen things on the street and abroad. He still had the dream of writing for Hollywood, and he promoted his television show, and it took Desilu Productions, owned by Lucille Ball, to make the challenge to take the lead with the networks. And therefore, on NBC, a pilot was done. And then the series began. It took him long enough to get a traction going, get the fan base going. The fans saw it the first season and fell in love with it. This is one show that actually didn't have a cliffhanger saying, Ready for part 1, part 2. How to get your fans hooked just by showing them part 1 and part 2. Well, we didn't have that going on there. So I was watching as a kid. I was a baby. How was that supposed to be? Although when it came out with the first reruns, was I understanding what Star Trek was all about. I wasn't the first run generation. I was the first rerun generation. But I was born under that time. I was born of watching the fan base grow. I was watching fans who wanted more of Roddenberry's work because they saw so much ugliness happening these days that they really, really wanted some hope. They wanted something more than what they've seen. Oh, Lost in Space was nice and fun. You had a family out there who got lost between Earth and Alpha Centauri, and then they landed on the planet and beat a hell of a lot of aliens. Okay, big problem. Let's see, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, also there with another Irwin Allen while they were watching that. Submarine Seaview, battling monsters and aliens. If I'm not mistaken, last episode, transporting them back in time, well, they never found a way back home. Still stuck there. Never found a way home. Of course, we were watching that, not to mention a lot of serious reruns of the Twilight Zones, showing us analogies, and also the Outer Limits. If not that, the British folks were also listening to the radio runs of Doctor Who until he started doing his own live actions, shall we say, of the doctors, the cantankerous, time-traveling, interdimensional doctors going from one place to another place to another place. And with their traveling companions, they either pick up or hijack or something like that. Off to see and explore the universe and saving the universe at the same damn time. Created a hell of a cult following a lot longer than Star Trek. But today, Star Trek Day, not Doctor Who. Even Star Trek actually spawned some other things out there too. We actually did have Battlestar Galactica. And let alone the major contender out there, which was Star Wars. For a long while, the fans have been going after each other, sometimes politely, nicely, and other times almost fisticuffs. I said almost. Which one was better, Star Wars or Star Trek? Depending on who you talk to. Me, I grew up under the Star Trek. I also watched Space 1999. So yeah, like your plethora of choices out there of the sci-fi realms to be part of. The sci-fi movies, books, comic books, and everything else. A lot of them related to their own genres, and none of them allowed to cross over, shall we say. And if they did, the networks and the copyright owners would go insane over the damn thing. Paramount, CBS were very picky when it came out for who owned what. So did MGM Grand Studios, not to mention Lucasfilm. Universal, the guys just didn't marry each other's genre. There was no cross with any of it. You go online these days, it's a different story altogether. And today, 55 years ago, I had grown up watching all these sci-fi shows, including the other shows like UFO. Dealing with the shadow organization against alien invaders trying to steal us for body parts to live. So the Earth's mightiest hidden secret, and yet highly advertised. Shadow Force Supreme Headquarters Alien Defense Organization. Plastic all over damn videos, everything else, vehicles, and everything else. But still hidden And it's still supposed to be secret. Lucky. Might you have any other shows? Next, let's see, there was season 2 that came out. The fans had fought the networks to keep the Star Trek show on because they found something of worth in it. Roddenberry hired a lot of writers, potential up-and-coming writers who actually had books out, but this is a good way of stretching their own imaginations too, and also getting extra work. And some of those writers actually became living legends within the fandoms. They cross over in different areas, but they did prove they had what it took. And a lot of us fans out there who weren't picky on which particular genre, we loved them all. Living in past beyond the great rim, shall we say. We were blessed. We're blessed with it because the fans actually saw something of worth that was worth fighting for, and they fought like crazy to get their shows and their movies still continuing, because they found that the other writers who were finding their footing, finding their voices out there, were expanding their universe more and more. The fans were taking it upon themselves to evolve into a creational situation here. They made their universes. They made their megaverse of every sci-fi thing involved in it. And it's still expanding. As long as human imagination is still working, they're still expanding, probably still recycling, but the stories are still good at it. Star Trek lasted for 3 seasons, 79 episodes for the original series. Growing up as a kid, I had to learn everything like this. I had to learn the technique, the techno babble, the hand signs. I had to learn the character names, ships, propulsion units, decks, technical specs about it. If you weren't a Trekkie or a Trekker, you were going to be, one way or another. Much like when that movie came out, Galaxy Quest, loosely based upon Star Trek, and fandom and how we treated our characters, our actors, and the series in general. Because it was usually the youth they were appreciating more and more, while the older generation saw it for the first time. We're getting barriers knocked down left and right, so the youth can pick up and carry on, carry it forward. Every new generation that comes out and watches all the shows get more and more of a deeper appreciation. The older generation step aside for the younger generation to make more headways. More conventions, more merchandise to be sold, more memorabilia, more memories. Star Trek is just part of it. But today we celebrate it because it came out on September 8th, 1966, for the first time. We celebrated May 4th, or actually it was May 5th, as Star Wars Day because it came out and debuted in the theaters, both walking and driving. Battlestar Galactica, I don't know when it came out. It always came out on television, along with Buck Rogers with the recycled stuff from Battlestar Galactica. Thank you, Gene Larson, for that one. For both. So we owe ourselves to the old guard, and we give thanks to these guys because they opened the door for the writers. We're giving more away to the younger writers and younger generations to enjoy it all. I have seen a lot of episodes, and sometimes I think I know more and more about them from memory than anything else. production was usually more detailed and more intricate than the storylines. A lot of the hardcore fans who actually worked with production offices, they had stories to tell at conventions and radio shows and podcasts and videos of anything and everything regarding Star Trek. The movies came out for the original cast. 79 popped out. There comes the 79. The motion picture came out. And then it's about 82. Wrath of Khan came out. 84. No, 84. Yeah, it was 84. 84. Search for Spock for Star Trek. Then about 86, 87, here comes the 86. Voyage Home. 2 or 3 years later after that, a movie that no Star Trek fan likes to talk about half the time in the first place when it was filmed. Final Frontier. Some things you just didn't touch on. The last of the movie series, The Undiscovered Country, maybe the pinnacle of the movie sections. People thought it was the Wrath of Khan. Actually, for me, it was The Undiscovered Country. Unresolved issues that carried on into the next generation that was already being produced on television for people to get into. And fans didn't like it that much in the first place, but they were still loyal enough to Star Trek and to the creator who made it, so they taking it upon themselves to see if they can like it or not. After the first season or two, it survived. During that time, we lost our creator, or the fandom. But the fans and the writers and producers who grew up under the original, they took over the reins. They continued forth with the Star Trek Next Generation for a full 7 cycles. During that time, they also spawned off Deep Space Nine, a station out in space. Backtrack, the Next Generation was supposed to be an updated version of the Enterprise, still exploring the universe, still dealing with the aliens of the galaxy, promoting peace, blasting Borg, getting in interstellar conflicts left and right, but mainly the same stuff that they had in the original one. Dealing with all the issues of the time, but put into a context we were supposed to understand. Deep Space Nine was just a space station where everybody came to it. It's like watching Cheers in space. But worse. Cheers didn't have alien vessels blasting the hell out of it, or an alien war happening through a damn wormhole. Some people thought that it was a copycat to Babylon 5 because it was a space station and had aliens on board. The controversy between Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine still continues to this day, but from 8 or 2 different episodes altogether. They're 2 different shows, 2 different genres. I mean, they're still in the science fight, but there was a lot of differences made between those 2 shows. People just didn't see the differences. We don't talk about that one in another video. The next one that they actually had was Star Trek Voyager, also another 7-year run. Just like its counterpart, Deep Space Nine, which launched Voyager out into space. Voyager finds itself in the deepest range of the galaxy by some alien caretaker who wanted to get survivors. Actually, he wanted to find a worthy successor to itself and couldn't find any. So it dies and leaves the Voyager out there all alone in space, meeting a few other alien crew to pick up and befriend and be part of the crew for a while until they leave off the show. The rest of the main cast still winds itself back in Federation space after 7 years. During that time, we've already had about 4 shows, actually 4 movies for their format for Next Generation. Then there was Enterprise. This ship was supposed to be the one beginning before Kirk actually gave those run. So, it didn't do too well in the fan ratings, so. They only lasted 4 seasons in the thing, actually. It had potential to run at least several more. But because they were looking at the ratings and didn't think that they were bringing in the revenue enough, 4 seasons was it. It had more potential, and the fans knew that. But there were just not enough interest in it. Kind of sucked. It's bad enough for the other genres trying to take a break or take up the slack a little bit. In the last 10, 20 years, actually 10 years, Star Trek's picked up the slack once more, trying to get more shows going. Star Trek Picard, Star Trek Lower Decks, Prodigy's coming. Now, I haven't said anything concerning about the fans creating their own works over the past 30 to 40 years, roughly 30 years, and passing the information off in the fandoms left and right. The internet's a wonderful place to see all this archived work. And they're showing that the fans keep the legend alive. One particular group created a Star Trek continuation, where the 3rd season for the original series ended, but this group kept it going for 2 or 3 more years until they had to discontinue it. Sets were still kept, actually were built to show the original sets of Star Trek to the public. People still see the exhibits every so often. There have been Star Trek cruises on a few select cruise ships out there throughout the past 20, 30 years. Star Trek hasn't died, still trying to hold on to its true form. Everyone's equal. No one's an alien. Even when they look alien, they're not alien. That's just someone you haven't gotten to know yet. The galaxy is supposed to be a big, wondrous place. Compared to our reality right now as it is, we have yet to see one particular alien life form that we know of. Not even a damn microbe. And if we did, that would be astounding. But as far as humans concerned, we and the life forms on this planet are the only things left living. Until we actually run into actual aliens and actually have public knowledge, and some public knowledge. We're talking about, visualizations, actual proof, talk shows or something like that. Something to convince us that we actually have aliens among us. Aliens living among us, surviving among us, wondering why. Until we actually have an alienation going on. Where hopefully we're treating the aliens as equals. I'm not quite sure if the human race is actually ready for extraterrestrial visitations, you said, even though we are looking forward to it. We've had SETI programs, which are extraterrestrial intelligence out there. The radio programs, shooting up signals, not to mention shooting up satellites, flying them off in deep space over the past 40 years. Voyagers, Viking, Pioneer in 11, and also we had the Voyager 1 and 2. Postcards to the universe telling them that we exist and we live here. But the true postcards we have is the signals we've been sending out since the time we could send out electromagnetic transmissions from carrier waves into space, visuals, are true ambassadors of stars. So on this day of Star Trek, that we have to acknowledge that. It's on this day that out there may be coming over here sooner than we expected. Maybe we could celebrate Star Trek Day as the first contact day. An actual first contact day. Despite the fact that we already had an anniversary of that passing a while ago, back a couple of months ago. We're supposed to be the Vulcans landing on Earth because they detected a warp ship who just came from Earth all the way over to the end of the universe. Actually, probably Mars or something like that. Or Jupiter. But something to test light speed. And it decided to come home. But the Vulcans found it and found that Earth still trying to develop itself after the Earth already had a World War III of nuclear weapons. And the survivors are still trying to live. Put things in a nutshell. Fandom means a hell of a lot of things to people. Fandom means a great things to a lot of people. Fandom brings a lot of fans from all cultures, all lives together. We may have a lot of differences. We may have language, religion, philosophy, politics, masculine viruses. But they're still celebrating something that we all do. Human exploration, the human adventure. As was quoted in the movies of Star Trek, the human adventure is still continuing. As long as mankind is still exploring, human adventure always continues. And one of these here days, we may yet be an alien race and we'll do this. And hopefully don't mean that it's an attack on us. Probably offer a hand of friendship. Maybe the guy will say Nanu, Nanu. Or maybe not. But for today, just for today, and just for right now, I celebrate Mike Geek. Live long and prosper. Just don't do this to fans. Live short and die, because right now that's like a gang saying. That doesn't work these days. Yeah, that's something, and I don't want to represent something like that. I am a Trekkie. I do this.